The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Well, good evening and welcome to the old familiar setting of my living room. The backdrop of the wonderful diecast car collection, most of it anyway, some of it's over in that area. Hi, I'm Steve West. Thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. You notice I am not joined by Matt Nicholson. If you were listening to the big show on Saturday, you probably heard that he had to leave a little bit early. He's dealing with some throat problems that somewhat related to his thyroid surgery that he had some months ago. So they're doing more testing on it. And it's just got his voice all kinds of raspy, and it's causing him to really have to force air through there, and it's exhausting and tiring for him. So I just told him, you know what? I'll handle it. You take care of you. Your health's more important. So appreciate my brother, and we're praying for you, Matt. Get better real soon. My thanks to producer John for being available here on this Tuesday evening. And producer Molly, thank you for everything that you've done for us in studio. We do hope to get back in studio here fairly soon, even if it's just me. But yeah, we're hoping to do that. Matt's, like I said, dealing with the health problems and some rescheduling at his work. So we might be doing a home game for a few more weeks. We'll see. We're also not going to be doing a big show this weekend. Our plans are, or probably more likely were, to go to Charlotte, North Carolina to the National Motorsports Press Association Conference. And if you've seen our logo, for example, on our website, you know we're members of that. And it's a pretty big deal because it's dealing with a whole lot of issues that we have to try to cover with the NASCARs, the Indycars, and the NHRAs of the world. And the interesting thing is that getting credentials for press to go to an NHRA event, not really all that big of a deal. IndyCar's got a couple of little issues, but it's pretty easy to do that. NASCAR is getting way overboard when it comes to putting out credentials for actual press, and that's why we want to be more involved. But with the weather that's coming into the southeastern part of the country here, that will affect our home area in and around Birmingham, Alabama, and East Central Alabama, all the way over to Atlanta and up towards Charlotte. It's just not going to be a safe thing for us really to try. So we're probably not going to do that. But also considering timing, and we're not really certain of that, we're not going to do a big show this weekend either, just for the safety purposes of it. So we'll be taking this weekend off. So we got plenty to get to here on this edition of Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. Let's start off with the first picture here, which we will be dealing with the National Hot Rod Association. Speaking of those guys, they have been slowly but surely putting out editions by 5 different drivers every single week here until they get from 50 to 75. This is the 3rd edition. So this is drivers 11 through 15 effectively. And I don't have their full resumes in front of you, but I can tell you each of these drivers are champions. Each of these drivers have won multiple national events. Doug Kalitta from Top Fuel, for example, he is one of those drivers who has championships and multiple event wins. Matt Hagan just a couple of years ago claimed his latest, I want to say he's up to 4 now, funny car division titles, and he's got 60 plus, if I remember right, national event wins. Jason Line, Eddie Krawick, who do Pro Stock Car, Pro Stock Motorcycle events, multiple time champions, multiple time event winners. And I do really like the fact that they haven't just concentrated on what we now call the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, the top 4 divisions, the ones that we here on this show, on the podcast, and on the big show on Saturdays really do pay attention to. We could go way off into the weeds getting into the sportsman categories, but we choose not to do it just mainly for time purposes. But the fact that they're willing to recognize that it's, for example, remembering in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, the drivers who were in the Arca Menard Series, the Whelen Modified Tour, those kind of guys, every bit as deserving to be in the Hall of Fame. Sportsman Division driver Sean Bellemer also making it in. And that is just, I think it's fantastic that they're doing that and including them in the top 75 drivers of all time. So big time applause out to the NHRA. 2 more times that we're expecting them to actually bring out lists, and we will keep you updated with them as we roll along here on Cross Flags and on the big show. So that's the good stuff there. Other things that we want to do as far as news are concerned, and we have been following this every year just to kind of get you guys familiar with this, because Formula One's gaining ground here in the United States of America. And that's a good thing. And we're seeing the popularity increase. It'll be interesting to watch this year as things switch from ABC ESPN over to Apple Plus, the streaming service. I think it will see probably a small dip. But as much as we are seeing streaming come of age and different services like Apple Plus start to increase, and let's face it, this is the way that we're getting a whole lot of our entertainment these days. We're not just clicking it on and putting on cable or a satellite dish anymore. We're getting the vast majority of our stuff from the YouTube TVs, from going on and doing everything from Netflix to Amazon Prime to Paramount Plus and Apple Plus and so on and so forth. And Formula One, I think, realized that. And they're also seeing something that NASCAR saw for their 5 races last year. Let me make a comparison before we show you a couple of looks here that got debuted here over the last couple of days. When the 5 Cup races this year went from the Fox network where it began the year to Amazon Prime for those 5 races, NASCAR noticed something. Yeah, the viewership dropped a little. Fox averaged somewhere in the 2.5 to 2.8 million per race on average. Amazon Prime was down into the 2.1 to 2.3, 2.4 million. So it dropped a little, not much. Here's what else dropped. Average age of the viewer. That's an interesting demographic. When you think about the broadcasting world, television, radio really doesn't matter. You're looking for a specific age group. Ideally, adults 25 to 54. Producer John knows this. He's been in radio about as long as I have, truth be told. He knows this just as well as I do. Adults 25 to 54 have started to get really, for the most part, not in every case, not 100%, but for the most part, set in their career. Number one. Number two, it's their prime earning years. It's not to say that you can't make money after 54. It's not to say that you can't make money before 25. But as a general rule, adults 25 to 54, that's your money group. Those are the people that you're going after, your advertisers and so on. That's why all of the different radio stations and TV stations all across the country are all looking for that demographic. NASCAR's average age was close to 60 on Fox and NBC and even TNT. It dropped to about 50 years old when it was on Amazon Prime, which shows more younger viewers were tuning in. I think Formula One's actually kind of smart. Now, yes, they went with Apple Plus. Apple Plus is very enamored of Formula One. They put out Formula One, the movie, back last year, made almost $700 million worldwide. They're very happy with what they're seeing out of Formula One. I think you will see that indeed they're going to find that the demographic drops a little bit. And Formula One has already attracted a younger viewing audience than NASCAR has so far. Something else for NASCAR to think about. So with that being said, we want to kind of get you familiar with what the new cars look like, because they change a little bit each and every year. And the first one that came out was the Haas F1 2026 look. And remember, they're switching this year. They thanked MoneyGram a whole lot for being the title sponsor the last couple of years. They're gone now. And in their place is Toyota Gazoo Racing, TGR in other words. Here, thank you to producer John for enlarging it a whole lot, is the new look of the Toyota Gazoo Racing Haas F1 2026 car. You can see the big Haas on the side in black, as we have usually seen. Black, white, red is their typical look. But look right there on that engine cowl, right over the top where the air intake is. And you can see there's the GR, that Gazoo Racing, Toyota Gazoo Racing. The title sponsors have very, very prominent placement. I didn't get a real good look at the nose cone, but if you look at the nose cone here right at the front of the car, you can tell there's a whole lot more advertisers there than what we've seen in the past as well. So that means Haas F1 is actually making some inroads here. Congratulations to them. That's a good-looking car right there, being able to keep that typical look. Again, that tricolor look, white with black and red. I appreciate what Haas F1 is doing. Now we'll see if the car performs as well, number one, as it did last year, and number two, as good as it looks. And then there's the second reveal that happened just earlier today. And we showed you a tease of kind of what the Audi car might look like when they kind of did their own tease. Now we actually have the look of the car. It's not all that different, truth be told, when you kind of look at what they're doing. You can tell they're doing black and gray and red. Not a whole lot different from the Haas F1 look, truth be told, in the fact that you got the black and the red, but instead of the white that Haas F1's using, they're using more of a gray there. It's a very subtle look. I don't think this is the 100% completed look, honestly. It doesn't look like they've put a whole lot of the different sponsors that they've got on the car. You can see a couple of them on the wings and such, and then the side pod. But I don't think this is the completed look here. This is the basic overall look that they're going to be going with here, where it starts off silver out in the front, or gray if you want to. Right around the driver's cockpit area, going to be black, and right over that engine cowl, they got a whole lot of red there. I think that's going to be the basic look, and then they'll just kind of play with it and place the sponsors here, there, and everywhere. The more interesting part to me is going to be how this car performs, because this is an all-new car with an all-new power plant. You know, when it was Sauber, they were using as a customer another team's engines, Ferrari, for example. But now Audi's come in. They've got their own power plant going here, number one. Number two, this is a total in-house thing. Yes, they're using the old Sauber factory, but they're also using their own factory, and they're using a place in Britain. So in a lot of ways, this is a whole brand new car here. It's probably an evolution in some ways from the design of what Sauber had last year, which is a pretty good car. Remember, the cars are not as wide, not as long from front to back. But I think you can probably take a lot of that design and you can transfer it and just make it a little bit smaller. I don't know what, 90%, I guess, of what last year's car was. We'll see how well they perform, how well that engine does. It goes to that Cadillac situation as well. Cadillac doesn't have so much to worry about as far as the quality or the reliability, maybe even more importantly, of the engine, because for the first couple of years, until they get their engine program up and running, Cadillac's using Ferrari engines and power plants, but they still have to worry about whether or not the car's reliable and how it's going to react with that Ferrari engine. There's going to be some expectation for Cadillac, and we won't see their car until Super Bowl Sunday when they release it during a very expensive ad that night. But you think about it, the last debut that we had was 10 years ago. 2016, it was Haas F1, who we just showed you a minute ago. They debuted with Ferrari engines, and what did they do? They came out in their first two races. They scored points. That's going to be something of what Cadillac is kind of expected to do, especially with the amount of money that Cadillac and, well, for all intents and purposes, Andretti Global, how much money they put into this. We're kind of expecting them to come out of the gate and score points. Win races, not necessarily. That would be an upset of all upsets. I'm talking about claim a top 10. Who knows? Maybe in the first year, maybe even claim a top 5. We'll deal with that when we get into our big-time predictions just before the seasons begin. But there are high expectations for Cadillac. With the amount of money that they're putting into this, the amount of effort that they're putting into this, it's going to be a big deal. Audi's kind of the same way. Nobody's expecting Audi to mess with a backmarker operation. And we've talked about the tiers when it comes to Formula One. There's the top tier, which McLaren has fought their way into. Used to be just Mercedes and Red Bull and Ferrari. But now McLaren has clawed their way in and clawed their way to the top. They're the defending Constructors' Cup champs, and they've got the drivers who finished first and third in the standings just last year. Can another team climb their way into that top? Or if another team does climb their way into that top, does one of those top 4 now of McLaren or Mercedes or Red Bull or Ferrari end up having to be shoved out and into the tier 2, into the middle range. And of course, nobody wants to be at the bottom level where Williams was for the longest time, but now Alpine's sitting there. So we'll find out how that's going to happen. I don't think anybody's really expecting Cadillac to be a championship contender, but I think the pressure's on for them to be a mid-range team. Score 60 to, I'll say 100 points this coming year. I think anything less than that, some people are going to consider that a failure. If you're 50 points or below for Cadillac in the debut year, I think some people are going to consider that a failure. Will Cadillac? That becomes the question. Now I want to talk about some rides here because we got a couple of interesting things coming up here. Let's start in NASCAR. And when we talk about this, we get to the Daytona 500. Daytona 500 and Indy 500 are the 2 big races here in the United States of America. If you're talking about the 2 biggest events here in America in motorsports, those are the 2. It's the Indy 500, it's the Daytona 500. Those 2 get the biggest ratings of them all. And it just so happens that last year, Indy 500 actually performed the Daytona 500 when it came to the number of people that were tuned in. Now, part of that had to do with a weather delay, but still, that is important to note. But those 2 races, we've talked about how the Indy 500 has 33 versus a regular race has 27. Well, the Daytona 500, being as prestigious as it is, also tends to get a whole lot more drivers coming down and wanting to participate. Now, as we've talked about on the big show, we know there are going to be 41 entrants because Legacy Motor Club has said Jimmy Johnson is going to take that open provisional. Okay. And this isn't the past champions provisional. This is what we had been told last year was supposed to be for drivers who are not regular NASCAR drivers coming in and running it. Well, we're not seeing a Helio Castroneves or one of those drivers coming in to try to run Cup. So Legacy got approved to have Jimmy Johnson guaranteed a starting spot in the Daytona 500. The negative side of that is that Jimmy Johnson, should he actually claim the win in that 84 car, he won't get the points. He won't get the check. All he gets is the trophy. And the driver who would finish second gets the check and gets the points for first place. It's kind of weird how that works. But you also, again, being the Daytona 500 and being the prestigious race that it is, you get a whole lot of drivers who suddenly want to come in and they want to take part in the Daytona 500. So we're going to show you a couple of those Daytona 500 drivers who are coming in and saying, hey, it's time for us to go and give this a shot. One of those is RFK Racing. RFK Racing is breaking out a 4th vehicle. And it's funny, we've seen over the last couple of years where the 99 car has belonged to Trackhouse Racing. And it's been a car that, along with Ross Chastain in the 1 car, has seen Daniel Suarez behind the wheel. Well, Daniel Suarez is no longer with them. He switched over to Spire. 99 suddenly got switched. They dropped the 99 car for Trackhouse in favor of bringing in and putting the 88 car for their newcomer, Connor Zilic, and breaking out a number that's very, very familiar for our good friend Shane Van Gisbergen from Down Under. So he's got a new number. The 99 was available. RFK said, we'll take it, and we're going to put Corey LaJoie in the car. Because now we get the chance to have 4 cars on this one-off deal in the Daytona 500. And this is an important thing, too. Even if Corey LaJoie, who was a very good speedway racer, by the way, does very good at Daytona and Talladega. So it would not shock me at all if he, 1, qualified his way in, or 2, raced his way in via the duels. But Corey LaJoie has a legitimate chance to get in there. But even if he doesn't, on Sunday qualifying day and on Thursday in the duels, he's going to learn a lot. And he'll be able to tell the 3 RFK full-time drivers some of the things that he's found out, some of the things that he's learned. And this is why you're seeing the multiple car teams, the 2, the 3, and even the 4-car teams. And I know you can't do a 4-car team anymore. Those 2 teams that are now 4 cars, they're grandfathered in under the rules. But you can enter a 4th car on rare occasions. And this is what they have done with Corey LaJoie, who was going to be behind the wheel of the 6th car. We know this at the Clash at Bowman Gray. Because Brad Keselowski just said, hey, this is a money grab. I want to concentrate on my rehab for my broken leg just a little bit longer, for 2 weeks longer. Gives him that 2 more weeks to be able to get behind the wheel of the 6th car in the Daytona 500. This pretty much guarantees he's got to be in the car. Because his safety net, especially if Corey LaJoie qualifies, gets into the race either by putting that car on the front row on qualification day, or 2, racing his way in, which I think is a very, very good possibility. That means he's not available to be a reserve driver and jump into the car should Brad Keselowski say, hey, I got to get out. So now they need to figure out whether or not Brad's going to be healthy enough or whether they need to go find another safety net. Very, very important announcement right here that Corey LaJoie is going to be taking the 99 car out onto the track for RFK Racing and going to be trying to qualify for the Daytona 500 because, like I said, safety net out the window. Another one is Beard Motorsports. Beard Motorsports likes to put the 62 car out there and run it at Daytona and Talladega and Atlanta. They run it about 6 races a year at those big track races like that. And they've been very, very good at it. A guy who we're very familiar with. Guy with the nickname of Fast Pasta. He's going to be behind the wheel. They're going to put Anthony Alfredo behind the wheel of the 62 car for the Daytona 500. Not surprised by this at all. He's got a long-term partner in Dude Wipes. It's going to be his sponsor when he's down there in the Xfinity Series, or now O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. So why wouldn't they come and help him out here? Of course they are. So congratulations to Anthony Alfredo. Good car. Beard Motorsports is a good ride. And the reason why I say that is because they've got a great deal with Richard Childress Racing. Richard Childress Racing is no slouch when it comes to going to super speedways and racing. We can criticize all we want Austin Dillon and what it is that he does at Daytona and Atlanta and being a bull at a China shop in Talladega. But the results, they kind of speak for themselves. And Kyle Busch, let's face it, Kyle Busch has won at every kind of track you could possibly put him on. So here's what we're looking at. At least right now, it looks like we've got 7 confirmed non-chartered cars who are trying for this. We just told you about the 62 of Anthony Alfredo. We just told you the 99 of Corey LaJoie. We talked about the 84 of Jimmy Johnson. He's definitely in. Right now, we're waiting to find out, but Garage 66 used to be MBM Motorsports. Garage 66 appears to be putting Casey Mears in that 66 car. 44 car, that's NY Racing. That looks to be JJ Yaley. 40 car, we already know this. This is Junior Motorsports. That deal with Chris Stapleton that's going to have Traveler's Whiskey on the hood. That 40 car, that's confirmed with Justin Allgaier in there. A couple of others are possible. One of them is Corey Heim. Corey Heim has already been rumored, I guess is probably the best way to put it, because we haven't confirmed 100% that it's going to be this case, but everything that we're hearing is pointing to him getting somewhere around 10 to 12 races in a third 2311 car, which would be the number 67. And the first one of those may actually be at the Daytona 500, but it has not been confirmed yet. So we're waiting on a confirmation that Corey Heim could be in the 67 for the Daytona 500. A third Richard Childress Racing car, certainly not unheard of. Austin Hill is a great driver at Daytona, Atlanta, Talladega too. He has certainly torn it up in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. And he does pretty well in the Cup Series as well. Could be that they put out a 33 car for him. Rick Ware, second car, that seems probably the least likely of them all, because I don't think that they've got a chance to get a really good driver to get out there and do what they want to do. So that's a rumor. I wouldn't count on it happening. And one more thing here for producer John to get, and that is related to IndyCar. Because we just mentioned the fact that IndyCar has a 33 car field for the Indy 500. Great. Love it. Ed Carpenter has taken himself out of the rides, period. He's basically concentrating on ownership, except for one race, the Indy 500. Ed Carpenter is going to put a third ECR entry in there, and he is going to try for his, 21st Indy 500 of his career. Congratulations to Ed Carpenter. I think it's fantastic. So that's our situation. We wanted to give you as much news as we could and say thank you very much for being so supportive of us. You can subscribe right down to the bottom, make comments down there below as well. My big thanks to my brother and producer John for doing all of this and being available on a Tuesday night randomly. Our thoughts and our prayers continue to go out to Matt. Hope that throat situation gets better. Hope we'll hear something good tomorrow. And thanks to producer Molly for taking care of everything for our fine folks up at Jocks and Talk 99.5. Thank you for checking us out. Not this weekend. We'll be back next week with another edition of Cross Flag, probably another home game. And then we'll be back in a week and a half with another big show. Hope you join us then. Thank you very much. Don't forget the likes. Tell your friends if you already have. And we'll talk to you real soon here on CRN and Cross Flags.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.